We're going to give you a preview. We're going to be on this one tonight. Here we go. I'm going to give you a preview, and hopefully I can spur your thoughts also to do some thinking and some studying before next Sunday morning, if God allows this week to continue. Out of Hebrews chapter 10, we were there last Sunday, and we're going to go even deeper this next Sunday. Whenever God talks about Hebrews chapter 2 and verse 10, whenever he says, it was fitting. It was fitting. It was the right thing to do. It made sense to do what God is talking about doing here. It was fitting. It was well worthwhile for God to do this. Well, what is God talking about? He's talking about Jesus becoming flesh. He wasn't just a really, really, really good man who never made any mistakes that you could look at and say he was just like God. No, he was God. He is God. That thought in and of itself, that God becomes flesh, is simply more than I can imagine. God made a choice. God made a choice. Not only does he give us the freedom to choose, God made a choice and made an eternal commitment. Not just a 30-year note on a house. Not a 60-month note buying a new car. Not just a marriage vow. He made an eternal, forever. He made an eternal commitment to man. The Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit chose not to be God without man. Drink that in. God made a choice not to be God without man. And he made a choice to make man in his image, in his likeness. And God said it was worth it. In their reasoning, I don't know if they had a retreat and the three of them talked between themselves. I don't know if it was something that they just understood. I don't know how they came to that decision to make man and make that commitment to man. But it was an eternal commitment. And it was an enormous, even equal to that, a commitment that Jesus would become flesh. And God sums all of that up in those words. It was fitting. It was fitting. It was well worth their time. That's what that means. They considered it well worth their time for Jesus to make a commitment to become man, to become flesh, and not just look like us, but to become so human. He was human. He was man, not just found in fashion like a man, not made in the image of man. He was man. And experienced everything that mankind experiences. He was tested in every way that we're tested, yet without sin. He faced the struggles of home life with siblings and a mother and a father. He understood hard work. As the oldest, as the firstborn, quite literally in his family with Joseph and Mary, he's the one that got. If you're firstborn, you understand that he got to help. He learned to do carpentry work early. He faced lack of money. And he emptied himself of everything that being God was to become what man is. The frustrations, the physical fatigue, the pain, the heartache, the despair. In the garden, he said, I'm exceeding, my soul is exceedingly sorrowful unto death. Watch with me for a little while. And we can't hear the tone of his voice, but you can almost feel it when he comes back to Peter, James, and John, and they're asleep, and he said, couldn't you just watch with me for a little while? Couldn't you just watch for just a little while? But God chose not to be God without us, without man. That before he ever made us, he created a place for us to live in his home with him forever. And God, this is big in our society today about not fair. It's not fair, and we hear all of and it is. There may be times when it's really not fair, but all of the crying that we hear today, it's not fair. God plays fair, and He even plays fair with Himself. He doesn't just hold man accountable to this. He held His own Son accountable to this. And there's not a thing that God has ever expected of us that He has not already done Himself. Everything. He plays fair. That's why He talks about judging in righteousness, because He does what's right. This simply blows my mind, what God has done. So look in the mirror. Look in the mirror. I may even have a big mirror down here next week, so we can just walk around and let everybody look in the mirror. And think about this when you look in the mirror. It ought to make you see yourself differently, that God considers you extremely valuable. He says, you are worthwhile. You are worth my time. You are worth my investment. And Jesus is saying, I'm not ashamed to call you my brother. I'm not ashamed to call you my brother. So look in the mirror. Look around right now. Sunday morning we're going to do it again, but look around right now. Look at the one sitting next to you. Go ahead. Just really look at them. God thought they were worthwhile. Look at your husband, your wife. God thought they were worthwhile. And go through this week looking at the people that you see and really take a good look at them. God thought it was fitting to invest Himself for every person you see. And since everybody's looking this way, I want you to know God also thought it was fitting, it was worthwhile for Mike. Think about that. Think about Hebrews 2 and verse 10. And the Lord allowing time to continue, we'll meet together again next Sunday morning and talk more about it, look at it more in depth. What does it say to me? That's important that we hear it. And if you need help tonight, it's well worth God's time, just like this morning, to stop whatever's going on in heaven and celebrate over you coming back. Come right now while we stand and sing. I